Ink up. Slow down. Write your rhythm with Script and Scribe.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Script and Scribe. I am chuffed to be back because I had a delay in filming and I have a new notepad to share with you from Mnemosyne. And this is a really well-known brand from Marumon, or line from Marumon. This is a limited edition that they did with Clyde, and Clyde is really well known for their aesthetics. They're both Japanese companies, Marumon and Clyde, but the Mnemosyne usually has a black cover, and this Clyde input gives us a 2mm grid that we've got on here, and also this lovely olive green and the gold effect. The usual Mnemosyne notepads have a wider grid, but the quality of the paper stays the same. It is the high quality paper that was developed by Marumon for this line, making sure that it is resistant to bleed through and feathering and all of that. And I am so impressed with the performance. Flip this open and then we can see what we're going to be working with. But I will also sort of fast forward and give you a glimpse of one of the swatches that I ended up doing on this paper because I was so impressed, and I thought, let me show you how well it's performed here, and then I will have another clip that compares the same ink with performance on Hobonichi paper. Some of you are all wondering, is that supposed to be good? I can see it bleeding through, but it hasn't totally, not totally, and definitely not onto the next page. Let's look at the Hobonichi A5 cousin. On quick first impressions, it's very similar performance, but as we look closer, as you can tell, this is thinner paper, it's ghosting, and there is feathering on the Hobonichi, whereas there wasn't on the Mnemosyne. So the next thing we're going to try is to see how much it came through. And it's gone right through to the next page. Like, yeah, this is proper bleed through. It was not stopped from going right through that sheet. And going forward, I will stick to the Mnemosyne for my currently inked every month from this month, October, going on until I run out and perhaps find a different paper. But at the moment, this is one of my favorites. There's another cool tiny little feature that this notepad has, and it shows you the halfway mark. So I know to put the dots there for where halfway is, because there you go. You've got a line or a tiny dot right at the edge of the paper. Full disclosure, I have not tried a comparison with this notepad and the 2026 batch of Hobonichi paper. It is on the 2025 batch, which everyone says is notoriously bad. But after 4 years of using Hobonichi, I have decided to give other paper products a go, including my planner. So that will be a different video. I'll explain why I'm leaving the A5 cousin for the first time in 4 years. And it's not to encourage you to leave it as well, but just to let you know how I went about deciding, kind of like with this notepad, and how I stumbled across the fact that it is a fantastic paper for sheening and for preventing feathering and bleed through. For October, I considered going with a Halloween or autumn theme, but the palette really developed from this pen. It's a new pen I've bought for my birthday month. I think the colors I've picked echo moody skies, shadowy forests, touches of gold, and yeah, just that sort of like storminess. You can see there's a crack of lightning amidst the blue and grey of the sky over there. And I love that, especially with the sort of silver trim. It is a transparent barrel that I wasn't sure about, but it really makes the design pop. And looking at the lower part of the barrel, you got the rain landing on this ninja with his sword drawn, and he is on the edge of a Shachihoko statue, which is a carp-bodied, tiger-headed figure, sometimes also dragon-headed. But I just love this detail. And you might be wondering, how come a ninja theme? That's, probably not what you've gotten used to on the channel. But I couldn't resist. This is a Sailor 1911 Shachihoko. It's a second edition. They've done this before following ninjas, but this time the second edition looks mostly at weapons, but this time also at rooftops in the form of this pen with all of the rain coming across. And I had to have it because it reminded me of my teens. Growing up on the weekends, I would have my three cousins with me, Anthony, Eamon, and Trevor, and invariably they would, well, we would always vote on a movie, and I would be outnumbered 3-1. And eventually, even I was into the movies they were picking. So I was the youngest, and they always picked martial arts movies, and I just love them to this day now. And especially because they bring back such special memories of, time spent with my cousins. So this particular one spoke to me because I love a good thunderstorm, but also it didn't necessarily focus on the weapon. It focused on the Shachihoko, which is the rooftop statue. And a lot of the times ninjas didn't go out on these huge assassination missions, or it was a lot also about espionage, being on the rooftop and having a sneak about and surveying the landscape to see what's going on, figure out what the environment is, that sort of thing. So I quite like that. I mean, he does have his sword drawn, but I like the depth and what it makes me think of. So yeah. I could go on, but I better not because we want to look at the ink and the other pens. Okay, let's go. So I inked this up with a grey ink to really mimic the sky and the moodiness, and I went with Tin Woodman from Whirringgill, and this is part of their Wizard of Oz set. And it's a very well behaved ink. I've seen some people say that it's quite dry, but I just find it really well behaved and sort of moderate. I don't find it too dry, certainly not too wet, and it shades really well. So I'll just lay this down and you can decide what you think of it. I think Tin Woodman is quite a neutral grey, and it just feels right for making you think of storm clouds sort of rolling in and carrying a lot of thunder and lightning with them. And it really works well in the medium fine. So I have seen some people say that they don't like Tin Woodman in an extra fine nib, but I haven't had a problem. And this is a medium fine and it works really well. Although I think it would post, I daren't because I don't want to ruin the design. It's modern maquille, and I reckon that it would rub off if you put the cap on, repeatedly and took it off and on again and just kept rubbing away at certain points of the design. I'm just going to have this zoomed in so that we can see better how the actual writing is going. And this is a medium fine, like I said, and I love the experience. It is very much a sailor nib, so it's got some pleasant feedback. It's not smooth, but it is not dragging. It's just got that pencil-like feedback that everyone talks about. It's lovely and firm. You're not seeing line variation. You've got a lot of control, especially with this Tin Woodman in it. And the balance without it posted is still really good. I chose a wooden pen next because that is the base of the Shachihoko statues before they get covered in gold. And I went with my one and only wooden pen, which is this Jinhao Inheritance in oak. And oak is not the wood that they used on those Japanese castles. Now, first, this does not post well at all. It's not sliding off, but the balance feels wrong. So I'm just going to leave the cap off the back and use a pen like this. It feels well balanced this way. And we've got a fine nib on there. Jinhao fine nibs, I love. The grain in there looks gorgeous. And I will just say that the usual wood for the structures would have been something like Japanese cypress or pine or something else other than oak, but yeah, this will do. And we are going to pair it with this Colosseum ink from Diamine, which is a sandy beige. And I've seen some mixed ideas about this being perhaps some people saying not legible at all and some saying really good. So I do feel that it's one of those inks that depends on the paper, and I've got high hopes for this paper making the ink sort of shine to its best abilities. I have seen that it's got good shading. So let's see how it performs. I sort of thought getting it out of the pen is going to be quicker, but sometimes I think it would be just quicker to get a little pipette and stick that into the bottle and, put a few drops on the page. But here we are. When we smush this down, we get a sort of warm beige that very slowly seems to cool or get more muted as it dries. And it flows really well in this fine nib. So I think they're a good team. I'm not going to say that this is like my favorite pen and ink pairing, but it does actually go really well together. It's a smooth experience and it sticks with the theme that I chose. So I'm really happy with this combo. And the next pen, of course, feels like it belongs with the previous because they both are about the statue. And this is a piston filler that has been, oh, I've got a dot of old ink in there. Anyway, it's not the new ink that I've got in here. I cleaned everything else but missed that spot on the lid. So this Asvine or Asvine has got, I think it's Asvine. Anyway, it is a sun spattered hill that is within the barrel. This lovely gold, shimmery, metallic. So the shimmer highlight here shows a saturated gold amber beautifully. And this is inspired by a poet, Yang Dongju, and is one of the richest shimmer inks I know alongside Merengue's Me in the Mirror. So even in a fine nib, that shimmer that you see at the bottom of the bottle really comes through without clogging the feed, and it comes out so nicely on the page, whichever page you're using. But there is a caveat, because I find that this ink feathers and bleeds like no other, which is not a problem that I have had with its counterpart, the grey silver shimmer, which is Me in the Mirror. That one seems to just stay on the page nicely without going through it. So this is why I showed you the contrast at the start with this particular ink going right through the Hobonichi A5 cousin and then not so much through this one. This is the ink that really convinced me that the Mnemosyne is the one that I want to be doing future ink swatches on. You may recognize the next pen. I used it first in July and I've been using it quite regularly since. It is the Y Studio Red Resin hexagonal pen with a medium nib. And I love the way that this works with a particular ink that color matches really well. So I have not switched ink that I first put in here. I just keep re-inking it, and it is the Writer's Blood from Diamine. Now, if you remember, this posts terribly. It just rattles about and then comes off. So it's not one for posting, and I'll just leave the cap there on the side. And here we have the little sample bottle, and I'm going to use a pipette like I should have done with all the other samples, rather than trying to squeeze anything out of the pen. I think that will perhaps be less messy, especially because I don't know if anyone's had a mishap with writer's blood, but I find that it sticks in my nails for quite a while, and then it actually looks like you've had some sort of mishap, other than ink going everywhere. It just looks concerning because it is that deep dark red, a sort of rich oxblood. It shades really well, and in terms of the samples, very often what you'll have is a green sheen on the paper as well, especially on Hobonichi and on this Mnemosyne paper as well. Writer's Blood is a very wet ink, so I'd usually only use it in an extra fine or fine, but this medium performs really well with it. I would not use it in a Pelikan medium. Pelicans just gush all the time. I don't know if it's the snazzy feed that they have, but they are like hydrants. I feel like this burgundy bridges Halloween spookiness and old martial arts movie aesthetics, dramatic, rich, and slightly scary. For the next pairing, I was going to go for what looked like the greener of the two Pilot Iroshizuku inks. And then I realized that the one that looked more teal actually is called Dew on Pine. So I thought, let me do this because what I am after is a sort of shaded, shadowy forest. And if this is called Dew on Pine, then maybe it will dry to the color that I want. I'm not sure that it exactly 100% did, but it still has the right vibe. And I've got it in a Jinhao 10 that we'll come to in a moment. But what I can say is that this Pilot ink, the Iroshizuku line, works so well in Jinhao 10s. I love it. And the color is starting to go more green as it dries compared to when it was down on the page. So, it's growing on me. Anyway, this is the Jinhao 10 and the finish is in silver waves. So you've got this pattern, which I really enjoy rather than just being all sleek silver. And I feel like a lot of people are now familiar with this retractable pen from Jinhao, which is very much a dupe of a Pilot pen, which is why I wonder if those Pilot inks perform so well in here because they are that dupe. I have other color Jinhao 10s, but I felt like the silver wave is also a little reminiscent of that crack of lightning that we had in the original picture on the first pen that I've been basing everything on, so that 1911 Sailor. And finally, we have my oldest pen, which is this Waterman Careen, which has such a classic look. It is black lacquer with gold trim, and we've got a solid gold 18 karat gold nib. So actually, this pen and the Sailor are the only two gold nibs in this lineup. Now, it is old, and I didn't look after it 100% like I do with my pens now. So here and there, you're going to see little sort of like scuffs on the barrel. And the grip section also has a bit of a scuff because that's also lacquer, but it is well loved. And this distinctive nib is one of the smoothest writing experiences. Every time I use this pen, I'm like, why don't I use it more often? I decided to pair this up with Wiringil, The Sky Seasons Passing By. This is a blue ink that has a lovely muted shade and it has loads of shading to it. It also has a medium flow, and together with that medium nib on the Karen, this is a sort of buttery smooth experience when you're writing. It's soft and it's gliding. It's almost the opposite of the tactile pencil-like feedback of the Sailor. So I'm tempted to say if you dislike the scratchier feel of a Sailor nib, which I actually love, then I would recommend this. This pairing shows what effortless feels like, or doesn't feel like, because there's no effort to it. I don't know how to describe it, but it is just wonderfully smooth. Anyway, altogether, I feel like these different colors have come together in a really cohesive and satisfying palette, balanced coloring to them. So I'm really pleased with this, and I know I'm going to be using all of these pens regularly throughout the month. It just has the right vibe for me, and it's a celebration of a present to myself for my birthday month. So, I mean, what's there not to like about this? Plus, I really think that one of the stars of the show is this notepad. The paper test is really what impressed me so much when I first picked up this pad. So watching YouTube videos and seeing recommendations about paper really paid off. The ghosting is minimal. The bleed through is non-existent except for that hint of show through from the shimmer swatch. Far better than I've had on the Hobonichi. And that's not throwing shade at Hobonichi. I will be back about paper again because I am doing away, after I say not throwing shade at the Hobonichi A5, I am doing away with my Hobonichi A5 cousin and I will be sharing with you what I've decided to do instead. But this is in no way to try and influence you to do away with yours, because I have used these journals for 4 years. And the reason that I've decided to move away from them is not the fact that I can't do ink swatches on them. In fact, I don't want to do ink swatches in my Hobonichi cousin. I just ended up doing that because I wasn't utilizing it to its fullest. And that is the reason that I have made a change for 2026, which I will be sharing. So I will just say a huge thank you to everyone who's joined me today, and let me know your thoughts. What was your favorite ink and pen pairing? What are you using this month? And have a lovely October. Take care. Bye.